Welcome back to the Love U podcast. My name is Evan Mark Katz, dating coach for smart, strong, successful women, and we're going to learn about dating, relationships, men, sex, all that kind of good stuff. Right now we're talking about hate, why it's so often irrational. In the first half we talked about hating someone for two different reasons, because he hurt you intentionally and because he hurt you unintentionally. Those are two very different things, and I would suggest that the latter happens a lot more than the former. Just very logically, if someone is your boyfriend, he doesn't want to hurt you. I mean, that's you have to believe that normal, sane people, if you're together, he doesn't want to hurt you. Sometimes the hurt is a byproduct of just two people thinking differently or having different goals or ideas about what's appropriate. But on behalf of every semi-sane guy on the planet, I've never met a single guy who's like, I'm going to think of a way to systematically destroy her self-esteem. Guys are not psychopaths. We just have different opinions sometimes than you do. What I find more interesting, and this is less relationship stuff, and I'll admit that in advance, is the hatred when you envy someone who has something that you don't, and the hatred when someone's existence feels like a direct challenge to yours. And both of those touch me personally because I've had people hate me for both of those reasons, in my opinion. And the first kind of hatred is actually tantamount to something resembling envy. When you hate someone who has something that you don't. And I want to talk from personal experience, and this is somewhat embarrassing. I'm really fortunate that I get to do this. I'm happy, and I consider myself successful, and I've helped lots of people. I don't lack in self-esteem. At the same time, all the time, I look around at other people, and I wish I had some of what they had. And so, literally, just off the top of my head, I could think of people that maybe you've seen, and that I envy. Christian Carter, Eben Pagan, Matthew Hussey, Paul Carrick Brunson, Tai Lopez. These are friends of mine. I know all of them, and so. I'm coming to terms with this. I look at these guys, and they are either more financially successful or more famous, or they have bigger social media followings, and I get into this place where I just say, in my head, I hate that guy. I'll hide their Facebook posts or unsubscribe from their lists. But you know what? I don't hate them at all. They're good guys. And they're handsome guys, and they're hardworking guys, and they're successful guys, and they're helping other people, and none of them have been anything but nice to me. But when I contend with that, when I realize that there are moments where I say, I hate that guy, what I'm really saying is not that I hate them, it's that I hate me. Right? I hate me for not being better at social media. I hate me for not figuring all this stuff out at a younger age. I hate me for not being some better businessman or something like that. So, listen, I put a lot of thought into this. I've lived in Los Angeles for 20 years. I was in Hollywood for the first my 20s. And in Hollywood, there's always someone cuter or taller or smarter or funnier or more famous than you are. And I've always, as I alluded to in the first part of the podcast, I've always been surprised when people hate Hollywood celebrities, right? When a celebrity screws up and suddenly all the haters come out. I always think as an example of Ben Affleck, right? And again, we could put aside whether he's cheated on his wife. That's separate, and again, that's an actual reason to look down on someone. But for the most part, it's envy. He's tall and good-looking and outspoken and famous, and people just destroy the guy because it feels good. It feels good to bring the big guy down to size, to participate in some sort of Schadenfreude, and we've cut down the tall poppy. The truth is, we'd probably give anything to walk a mile in someone like Ben Affleck's shoes. The guy lives a charmed life, but we want to cut him down to size, and that's the way it works. I don't know if this is an American thing, if this is universal, but in Hollywood movies, the bad guy is usually the guy who went to Harvard, the guy who drives a nice car, the guy who's impossibly good looking. Now, he may or may not be a bad guy, but we want to see him get his. We want to root for the underdog. We want to root for the little guy. We want to take down the person who's at the top. Somehow this makes us feel superior. So I want to ask you, sincerely, because I just admitted it to you, have you ever mistaken envy for hatred? Like I have. Had a moment where I said, I hate that guy. And I realized I didn't. So do you hate the young girl or the thin girl, the rich girl, the happily married one with the pictures of her beautiful kids up on Facebook? Do you ever have a moment of hate just because that person seems to have a better thing going than you do? I think it's important for you to realize that it's not real hate, or it shouldn't be real hate. It's actually envy. And it's important for you to know the difference. The next thing I want to talk about is the idea that we hate other people for simply existing. And I never thought about this before. And I'm kind of worried she's going to see this, but I'll bring it up anyway. I thought about this in relation to my mother-in-law. She doesn't hate me, I don't think, but I think she resents me. And this is a little deep for a podcast, but I'm an atheist. She's Catholic, and I know that what's been passed. She doesn't say anything like this to me, but what I've sort of ascertained from my wife is that I think she feels resentful of me just because I don't believe what she does, and therefore she thinks that I'm looking down on her or laughing at her. Just the fact that I exist, right, denies her worldview, right? Because if she believes something and I don't, then somehow, right, it's in denial of her entire worldview. My existence as an atheist is an affront to her Catholicism, but I don't see her Catholicism as an affront to my atheism, if that makes any sense. I see this all the time when people write nasty things on my blog. I'm not going to go so far to say that the people who write nasty things envy me, but I do think that my existence is a threat to them. If you are the kind of person who believes that all men are bad, I'm a threat. And if you are the kind of person who believes that online dating is the worst, then I'm a threat. If you want to believe that marriage is a failing institution, I'm a threat. So, in my opinion, people hate me and people like me largely because my existence disproves their entire worldview. Right? I see people through online dating successes all the time. I am a happily married man, and I know lots of happily married men. It's important to know that just because I preach positivity, right, doesn't mean that I'm always right, and that the people who are negative are always wrong. But I think it's really hard if you're in a negative place to look at people who are positive. It's easy to just try to cut them down and insult them and attack them. But you're attacking from a place of emotion. It's not from a place of logic, right? I'm a guy who works from home. I give away all this stuff for free. I believe in online dating. I believe in equality between the sexes. I believe in monogamy. I'm definitely not anybody's enemy. And yet, on the internet, it's a very emotional place. Some of the things that I say, right, just the very existence that there's a dating coach for men who tells women how to be more successful. How dare he? The problem is men, right? He's patronizing or misogynist just for giving women any advice whatsoever. He's a mansplainer. My very existence is a cause for hatred. And listen, I could understand why it's hard to take that. If any of the things I said indicted you, the first reaction might be, I hate that fucking guy. It could be the first reaction is no, I hate you because of what you're saying right now. He's so smug. He's so arrogant. He acts like, I'm doing something wrong. In fact, it's everybody else. I think it's easy to defend that worldview, right? But the reason that you do it is because it's harder to admit the other side of the story, right? Which again is not the only side, but to admit the other side, which is that being negative, hating men, hating online dating, hating random dating coaches in the internet is not an effective strategy for finding love. It's not empowering. It's not useful. It's not attractive, right? It's much easier to lash out than it is to look in the mirror. And that's for all of us. And again, that's what I've already candidly admitted. No one's going to tell you this stuff because, as my wife says, you're the kind of person who tells people that there's no Santa Claus and then you wonder why people react the way they do. I know that this isn't easy to hear, but I think it's important. If you're anything like me, your hate comes from a measure of insecurity, from not feeling good enough, from feeling envious. And I also believe that it's something that with some measure of self-awareness and humility, it's something that you can overcome. So thank you for exploring hate with me on this podcast. My name is Evan Marc Katz. Next week, we're going to talk about the challenges of being an introvert when it comes to dating. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and go to www.evanmarckatz.com. Give me your name and email address, and I will send you free dating and relationship advice forever. Talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.